that. Shadow Education Secretary Laura Chott joins me now. Thank you very much indeed. Lovely to see you this morning. Can I have your reaction to the... Thank you. Can I have your reaction to Sir Hamid Patel being made the new chairman of Ofsted? Just for the uninitiated, Sir Hamid used to be the head teacher of an Islamic school in Blackburn, a girls' school. While in that role, the school became one of the first in the country to urge pupils to wear a hijab outside of school. Apparently, guidance told the pupils there to recite the Quran at least once a week, not bring stationery into school that contains un-Islamic images. And the school was criticised in 2010 after a Saudi Arabian cleric visited who had described Jews as pigs and prayed to God to terminate the Jews. Is this the right appointment for Ofsted?
Well, look, Camilla, with this individual, I know that he has done some good work as the head of an academy trust. But as for the specifics about what was said, I'm not clear on exactly what was said in front of children or not. I think this needs to be looked into and then we can form more of a view.
I think in general, though, what do you think about somebody who's associated with an Islamic school? So this is a bit of a departure because it's somebody associated with a religious school taking this key role at Ofsted. That's not something that's ever happened before, as far as I'm aware.
I don't have a problem with, I believe in faith schools. I think faith schools play an important part within our system. So I don't have a problem with that per se. But as I say, these individual allegations need to be looked at and taken seriously.
OK. I see that you visited the Michaela Community School in December. Catherine Birbalsingh is the head teacher there. She's known as Britain's strictest headmistress, and indeed we've spoken to her in the studio. She has described the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, as a Marxist. Do you agree with that analysis?
Well, I certainly agree that the policies that she's espousing are just definitely more Jeremy Corbyn than they are Tony Blair. I mean, Catherine Birbalsingh has been amazing on this education bill, a bill that is going through the House of Commons that is the policy equivalent of a wrecking ball. It destroys the cross-party consensus we've had on what improves education over a number of decades, a consensus which has led to English children being the best in the world, in the Western world, at reading and maths. It is absolutely wrong. There is no evidence whatsoever that what is in this schools bill about academies will improve a single school. In fact, it's going to make it worse, and that's why I want them to take these academy clauses out of the bill.
And how successful do you think you're going to be in your quest to amend that bill? Because obviously Labour have got a huge majority. They don't seem to be moving on this, and Bridget Phillipson does seem to be supported by the civil servants in the Department for Education. So what difference can the Conservatives really make to this legislation?
Well, we've already had some success. When the bill was introduced, I pointed out that the bill, as it was drafted, capped the pay of teachers in academies. The government denied this, but it was later proven that it was true and they've had to amend the bill. We've already had a success. We're going to continue to make the argument about this, and this is not just us saying it. It's the Children's Commissioner who says that the bill will lead to children spending more time in failing schools. It's backbench Labour MPs. It's also head teachers and heads of academy trusts across the country. This is not just us. It's a coalition of people who are telling the government they need to think again.
There's some news in the papers this morning, I think it was either the Sunday Times or the Sunday Telegraph, suggesting that the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is now going to employ 4 barristers to prepare the government for legal challenges against its rise in VAT on private school fees. What's your reaction to that revelation?
Well, look, the rise in VAT on school fees will do nothing except damage state school education in this country. We already know that the numbers leaving private school are above the estimates that were given by the government. That means that it's going to cost the government more money than it's going to save. It's going to meet more pressure on our state school system, more pressure on our SEND system, and that is why it is the wrong thing to do.
But then again, the Conservatives can't do anything about it. It seems that Bridget Phillipson is on this path. She's not deviating from it. I appreciate that you're providing some opposition, but it just shows how powerless the opposition actually is to stop some of these measures. What do you think is motivating both of these different policies?
Well, like I said, we've had some success already, and I have not given up, Camilla, and I will not give up, because this is so damaging as a set of policies, so I will continue to fight it. But in terms of what motivates it, it must be ideology, because as I said, the evidence is all against this. So it's just kowtowing up to unions. That is the only thing that can explain it, because it is bad for children and for parents up and down the country.
Are you familiar with the Lost Boys report that was produced by the Centre for Social Justice a couple of weeks ago, which revealed that particularly working class white boys were falling well behind girls in school, in higher education, and even in earnings when it comes to the 18 to 24-year-old age category? What do you think can be done about it? And is fatherlessness to blame in some cases?
It's a brilliant report. It's also some work that actually MPs were doing before the election. People like Jonathan Gullis were taking up prior to the election. It's a very important issue, and this is the sort of thing that government should be looking at the moment, rather than taking a wrecking ball to our schools. And it is exactly these people who the changes that we're talking about in this schools bill will damage the most, because it's people from disadvantaged backgrounds who will bear the brunt of falling standards in our schools in this country, which is what is going to happen if this disastrous, discredited schools bill becomes law.
Just moving on to the Tories, isn't it now becoming the case that Keir Starmer is doing everything that the Conservatives promised to do but failed to deliver? We've got him now getting rid of NHS England, which is something a former health minister, Lord Bethell, has now wished that you did on your watch. We've got him slashing winter fuel, maintaining the two-child benefit cap, cutting international aid, cutting the civil service, as I say, axing NHS bureaucracy, possibly now slashing benefits. These were all things that the Tories should have done. And now he's stealing your colours. He's parked his tanks firmly on the Conservative lawn, hasn't he?
Well, Camilla, I'll tell you what this government is doing. They're cutting pensioners' winter fuel benefits. They are implementing a jobs tax, which is going to lead to redundancies up and down the country, and it's going to mean, for example, childcare costs going up by over 10% for people at home. And they are destroying our education system. And those are the things that we as Conservatives are fighting so hard in government. We are reduced in number, but the scrutiny that we hold is the thing that is going to hold back this government from even doing even more damage to our country.
Well, you are scrutinising the government, but nobody's really listening, are there? Is there a problem with Kemi Badenoch's leadership? Lots of talk now in the papers, Farage having met with Dominic Cummings to discuss whether Kemi Badenoch should be pushed out. Lots of talk about Robert Jenrick, would he have been a better leader? She hasn't made a clear enough mark in her first 130 days in office, has she?
Well, Kemi took over after a historic defeat for our party, but she is bringing the change that we need to win back the trust of the electorate and to speak the truth about what happened beforehand. Sorry, my hair's all over the place in the wind.
That's okay. You look fine.
To speak the truth about what happened to speak the truth about the mistakes that were made in the past, because rebuilding trust is the thing that we really need to do. And Reform Party are in chaos at the moment. The Lib Dems are doing nothing but enabling this Labour government. So it's up to us in our reduced number, because of Reform at the last election, enabling this Labour supermajority, to provide the scrutiny that we can do. And we are doing that, and we are fighting incredibly hard.
Are you? I mean, you're on the broadcast round. You speak to the media a lot. People like Chris Philp speak to the media. Robert Jenrick does. Priti Patel, but you've got other members of the shadow cabinet that people have not heard of. Where's Andrew Bowie? Where's Stuart Andrew? Where's Gareth Bacon on transport? Where are all of these people? Edward Argar on health. I haven't had any challenge from the Tories on NHS waiting lists. You're not being an effective opposition. Nobody's hearing you.
Well, I hope people are hearing me on education, Camilla. That's what I'm doing. As I said, we've got change already. We've got change on a number of other things as well across government. We are reducing number. In opposition, you have to fight so much harder to get yourself heard. And you are calling out some fantastic work by my colleagues, by Chris in the Home Office, by Robert Jenrick, who's calling out the two-tier justice system that is being imposed in this country. And that is what we are doing for people sitting at home right now, because we know that this government is damaging. We know that this government are doing dreadful things for people up and down the country that they did not vote for, and so and we have to earn back that trust. So it is right that I'm on shows like yours, making the argument, talking about what we're doing, speaking about how Labour are doing things wrong and what our alternative is, and we will continue to do that and continue to fight, because that's our job. That's what the British people have told us to do, and we will work at it as hard as we can.
But if you have a disastrous result in the local elections in May and you lose the Runcorn by-election and Reform win it and you come third, will Kemi Badenoch have to consider her position, Laura Trott?
No, I mean, these local elections are from a high point, like they were after the vaccine bounce. You've got a Runcorn, we're not going to win the Runcorn by-election. There's no way. So this is just ridiculous for people to be talking about that. And also, I think that it is just such a distraction from opposing this government. All I want to do right now is to make sure that we get the government to think again about their disastrous jobs tax, which is going to cause people up and down the country to not have the employment opportunities that they deserve. It's going to mean that childcare costs are going up for people at home who are really struggling at the moment. It's like completely unacceptable that they're causing pensioners to really struggle on another cold day like today with their heating. Those are the things I want to focus on, that I think we should be focusing on and that we will focus on. We will not be distracted.
OK, Laura Trott, thank you very much indeed for braving windy conditions up there in London. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.